A syndicate that unhinged themselves from a generational curse is now ready to break down barriers, stereotypes, stigmas, and corrupt political power. And this is, of course, yet another edition of the Mic Drop, a revolution of a generation on Relax Radio. And we are going live on our Facebook, YouTube pages. So if you are hopping on board, welcome to the show. This show is all about the power of the activists and their game, and their fighting, the peaceful fight that they are bringing into bring about some form of solace or solution to the economic crisis and other matters in Sri Lanka. And for today's show, we have a very special guest, Anjalee Wanduragala. Anjalee, welcome so much to the show, and also thank you so much for being a part of Relax Radio.
Hi, thank you for having me on the show.
Well, definitely. So, how are you feeling today? How has it been so far?
Um, Feeling okay. It's been a long few days. I mean, it's been almost 64 days.
Right.
65 actually, I think for
Mm-mm.
today. Since we began the occupation in Golface, Gota Gogama. So it's been pretty long because every
Yes.
day it comes with different struggles. It's not like, people are just at home doing uh, it's not like we're jobless to do, other things. We're there for
Yep.
a reason, for a cause, and sometimes it's exhausting, but we're not going to let it go until our demands are met. So I feel like we're feeling pretty optimistic. uh,
Well, yeah, there
we'll
you
see
go.
where it
She's already
goes.
showing the power in people. Well, Anjali, so what better way to start off the show than to ask you, tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm 22 years old. I'm currently studying my degree in economics at the University of Colombo. So other than that, I work part time as well. Before the Aragale and all of this, I used to be engaged in much more things, but now most of my time I try to spend there mostly because I mean, if we as the youth or just like citizens of Sri Lanka, if we don't go out and fight for these things, who is going to at the end of the day? Because it's our country and it's our future over here. So if we don't step out, I don't think anyone else will.
Well, definitely, we're starting off with a bang. Once again, to anyone hopping on board, this is the mic drop, a revolution of a generation. And for today's show, we have the incredible Anjali Wanduragala. Anjali, let me ask you, before we dive right into the rest of the questions, have you always, I guess, thought of yourself as a person who would have spoken up for issues just like this one in terms of, I guess, injustice?
I feel like as just like looking at myself, I would say that I was someone who would. I don't believe in sort of looking at a situation happen and then not speak for a situation of injustice.
Yeah.
I wouldn't watch it happen and wait till later on to speak about it. I feel like the very time that you need to speak about something, some injustice that takes place, is that very moment. There's no point in ignoring it at that time and then speak about it later, because what's the use? When you do have a platform, when you do have that privilege or that sort of ability to stand up on behalf of someone, if you do see some sort of injustice, I feel like I would have done that, whether it was with this Aragale or whether it was any other even small situation.
Right. So, where did your involvement for the current economic crisis start? And now, I mean, we are calling you obviously a youth activist. So, on that, sense, where did it all start for you for the current economic crisis?
So, with the crisis that's happening right now, I would say that even before the Mirihana incident that everyone knows about, with in front of the president's house, I feel like even before that, as the youth, as citizens, we were involved in different sort of aspects on town levels, right? The Kohuala protests, we had candlelit protests, silent protests. It wasn't just Kohuala; we had it in Rajagiriya, then we had it in Timbiri, which we still see taking place almost every day, the people that come out. So I feel like even before Mirihana, we were involved in Mirihana as well. But even before that, we tried our best to be involved in this town level protest, because we saw how bad Sri Lanka got. Because Sri Lanka is a country that is blessed with so many things, right? You name it, from the many natural resources we have, like the ocean, the wildlife, everything, right? We have everything. And well, the mismanagement and the corruption just brought us to rock bottom at one point, and I feel like that's what brought us forward. Because I think even before us in towns came forward to protest, it
Yes.
was the farmers, right? We saw it happen. We saw how the chemical fertilizers were bought in. It was forced upon them, and they even like there were so many rates of suicide, and they burnt their crops down
Right.
because they couldn't go forward with it, right? And that's where I feel like the protest began. The protest started even before it came into the towns. So I feel like we, as late as we are, at least we did get on board with it, and I'm glad it took that to at least get these towns and Colombo involved in it. But I feel like the history of these protests would go way back to the farmers and
Right.
people just like stepping out with
Do
their
you
rights
honestly
being
think that
violated.
we are late to this though? Because now you did say that people back then have also been protesting for this, right? Because when you think about the JVP riots and everything, so people for a very long time they have been asking for the same thing. So do you really think that we were late?
Yeah, I feel like what I meant by we were late to this was the fact that um, the very lower uh, people who were in the lower income brackets, like the farmers and people in rural areas, had obviously the first hit of this economic crisis.
Right.
It wasn't something that just popped up overnight, right? It was years and years of like just stealing money off our reserves, printing money, bringing in unnecessary projects that money that was supposed to be in one sector was used in completely different sectors, like for these insane big infrastructure projects instead of into like climate change activism or activism of that sort, right? It was taken in and misused. Basically,
Yeah,
public funds
absolutely.
were misused. So I feel
Absolutely.
like the first hit of it was for those people on in rural areas who didn't have as much comfort as the people in towns, right? So that's what I meant by us getting in there late, because it took some time for that to hit us, right? We had 16 hours of power cuts very recently, as in like March or
Yep.
February, right?
Yep.
And that's what got us on the streets, right? The power cuts, the fuel shortages, us having to stay in line for gas,
Absolutely.
which were problems that these rural areas were dealing with for ages.
For ages. Yeah.
Not just the
Yeah. Yeah.
rural
Yeah.
areas, the north, like we speak about like our freedom of speech being violated, and we experience all of it right now because Colombo has stepped out, like the areas within these towns in Colombo. But it has been there for ages, for decades before from the north. So I don't think that we can say we have this like freedom of expression or this freedom to protest if everyone doesn't get it, right? If the north doesn't have it, if the east doesn't have it, then how can we in Colombo say that, oh yeah, we are able to go out and protest? And that's why I think it's important that we do step out and like come out and protest, because we do need to use that sort of privilege. I wouldn't call it privilege, but that sort of like upper thing we have here, that sort of
Yeah,
protection
that
to
makes
come
sense.
out.
Yes.
So that's why I said that we're late, but I don't think it's a bad thing as such. We felt it, we came
Better late
out.
than never, right?
Exactly. So I feel like at least now, if we feel it and we genuinely want that change, we shouldn't fall into that sort of cycle of, oh, getting comfortable with this sort of thing, right? You need to step out. You
That
need
makes
to
perfect
demand for that
sense.
change.
Well, Anjali, I'm absolutely loving the authenticity of your answers because, I guess you are unapologetically yourself, and that is what, we wanted you to be as well. So thank you so much for giving out detailed answers. And on that note, I wanted to ask you now, you being actually, I do get most of my information from you as well, right? Watching your story, I'm like, yeah, well, the sheer amount of information that you share, it's absolutely amazing. So first of all, I guess on behalf of every Sri Lankan, thank you for your involvement in the current economic crisis and fighting the good fight. Well, what do you think about the people? And maybe I don't know. You probably either have friends who do this as well, because I do know some of my friends that do this, and I kind of want to tell them, but I don't want to tell them as well. They choose to stay silent about this, right? Either they are pro government or maybe they are not, but they don't, either share social media, I guess, messages or basically go to protests and whatnot. So, what is your opinion on people that choose to stay silent?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty simple, right? Because in an instance like this, we're not talking about one instance, right? We're talking about an entire country suffering because of a corrupt regime, right? Because of a
Right.
family that has been there for decades, just like misusing public funds, misusing, like I said before, I'm not going to repeat it, but you know what I mean, right? And
Yeah.
if I as a 22-year-old can understand that, look, it's either us as a country getting together and trying to rid this system,
Right.
or the corrupt regime. There is no in between. There isn't a gray area, and I don't think anyone can say that they're in a mid ground, because you're either with us, with Sri Lanka, with having a better Sri Lanka,
Or against
or
us.
you're against us. You're with the
Yeah.
Rajapakshas. You're with the regime that has been oppressing and creating this mess, right? So I don't think anyone can say that, oh no, I'm not on this side or that side, I'm just neutral in this situation. There's no neutral in this situation, because we see people just like dying on the streets, staying in queues, right? How many deaths? About
Yeah.
14 up
Yeah.
to now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not quite sure of the exact thing, but I think it's close to 14. It grew, right? Then without medicine, how many people are dying? Those figures, mind you, we don't even know.
No, right?
The
Yeah.
information right there is withheld. Doctors that put out this information about the infants' deaths that happened, like the 12-day-year-old child, like those doctors are being harassed. It's not just them, it's anyone who comes forward to sort of like give some sort of evidence or stand against it, speak up against it. You are a threat at the end of the day. We understand
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
But the thing that I could say to anyone that's afraid, maybe it's fear, right? That like keeps them from posting about it or
Is it
spreading
fear or is
awareness.
it privilege?
Exactly. So there are two sides to it. Like I said, you may have that privilege of, oh, everything seems okay. Now the 16-hour power cuts have gone into 2 hours, so I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm now used to staying in fewer queues.
Yeah.
It's not normal. This is not normal. Like, I don't think we can allow people to get used to this normalcy that they're creating for us. It's not. And it's not right. And as humans in Sri Lanka, citizens of Sri Lanka, I don't think that we deserve this. We deserve way better than this. We deserve all our rights being met. We deserve having our daily requirements met and not
Right.
having to, is it even actually living at the end of the day, because we spend half our day at work earning our daily wages and our like income, and the rest of the day we're in like fuel queues or just like in queues to get our gas or medicine. We're fighting for our lives at the end of the day.
Exactly.
So I feel like the privileged part is there, but also I guess some people are in that sort of, even to step out. I hear a lot of parents may be saying this, it may be unsafe, stepping out, your faces will be up there. Like, we do know that as people in the Aragali actively there on the ground, we do know that, they know there's like people, CID people just like undercover walking around there.
Yeah.
They know us, they
Mm-mm.
know, and we do know how the Rajapakshas have used fear as a tool of like suppressing and oppressing people. So, keeping that in mind, the only thing that I can say is, as long as us, like the youth or the civilians of the country,
Yeah.
know that we haven't done anything wrong. We are not the ones who are stealing money. We are not the ones who have committed murder. We are not the ones who have misused public funds. We are not the ones who have been involved with all kinds of these, criminal activities, right? So, if we have a
Absolutely.
clear conscience, I feel like there's nothing to be afraid of, because we believe in the law of the country. Even though there's corruption, we believe in the law. So as long as we are law abiding citizens who pay our taxes and do everything right, I don't think we have to be afraid of anything. I mean, it does take courage, and you have to be bold enough to like come forward and like
Yeah,
speak and
totally. Mm-mm.
help with the situation. But I feel like everyone is capable of doing it if you are that sort of genuine person who wants the best for her or his country.
Country. And on that note, did you have, a second thought or any second thoughts for that matter before getting involved in this?
I feel like, so obviously we are knowing the Rajapaksa's past, knowing what they are capable of, knowing the different sort of abductions, threats to journalists. Even right now, I bet you've seen how people who have come forward with the ninth attack on GGG, the
Right.
witnesses,
Mm-mm.
have been called into the CID. On what basis?
Right.
On what grounds? They've been imposed travel bans. The clergy, the nuns, the monks, the priests who are there in the ground, very well known figures. I'm not going to mention names, but people know they've been called in to the CID to be questioned about all of this. So I feel like that fear or that threat does exist, and it's a real fear. Of course, we will have to watch our backs most of the time and be careful and smart of how we move forward. But that's
Right.
not going to stop us for the very thing that I just told you, the fact that,
Absolutely.
look, we don't have anything to hide, we don't have anything, we're not the ones who have, ruined this country to this extent. So because of that, even if that fear exists, if we have to stand up, if we have to stand our ground, we will.
I mean, if we won't, who will, right? At the end of the
Exactly,
day.
exactly.
And for anyone hopping on board, by the way, this is the mic drop, a revolution of a generation. And for today's show, we have the incredible Anjalee Wanduragala already starting off with a bang, giving the most authentic answers. She's unapologetically herself, and she's, I guess, giving out information, facts, and her opinions and perspectives that are not wanted to be heard, but that are needed at this very point in time, because we need to somehow grow out of this, come out of this, and somehow find a solution. So, Anjali, in your lifetime, right, have you ever experienced instances, or an instance, whether it's in school or in a family background or in a public setting, adults, right, shutting you off, like when you try to come up with an opinion? Do you think that has been happening for the youth of Sri Lanka from way back then? All right, so for more than 70 years we have been in an economic crisis, right? But people have been coming out telling out this is not okay, this has to happen, and then people got murdered and they have been shut down, even journalists, right? We know what happened.
Yeah.
So do you think the Rajapaksas, or whatever the people have been doing in terms of shutting people down, do you think they have been doing that for the past couple of years as well?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, anyone in Sri Lanka who reads a bit of news and is sort of in terms with the current situations, I feel like if you know a bit of history, you would know that the past for decades, not just the Rajapaksas, a lot of corrupt leaders that have been there have in fact used that. The fact that, they say that they give a deaf ear to the
Yeah,
people's
they do.
pleas, right?
Mm-mm.
That's exactly what's happening right now with the protest that's happening. I mean, to be honest, I feel like as citizens of Sri Lanka, we've gone above and beyond our role as citizens. I mean, not only are we showing our dissent, we are giving them our demands. If anyone reads any placard or board, not just at Gotagogama, wherever the protests in Kohuala or the protests in the other Gotagogamas around, you can read just off one placard a few demands and a few
Yeah.
solutions. I mean, I don't believe that it's our job as citizens to give them solutions for problems that they created, because we are paying them salaries of our tax monies to do what? To warm their seats and not solve anything and just create problems.
Yeah.
So I feel like at the end of the day, this whole concept of telling people and giving that sort of authoritative thing and shutting down people has been happening, like I said before, in the north. Like, even here, yes, we do experience it, we see it, but then how much worse is it in other places? And when are we going to start the discussion about what is happening in other places as well? If our rights are being infringed to this level, being in Colombo, having the lawyers around us, having constant
Right.
media support
Mm-mm.
on the ground, imagine the things we don't know that have happened, like around the country,
The
not
Tamil
just
genocide, for example.
exactly the killings, the abductions of like everyone during the wartime and everything, right? So I'm just thinking though, I'm optimistic about this though, because right now one thing I see that's different from before, the whole concept of, oh, you messed with the wrong generation, to some extent I think that it's very agreeable. I believe though that even in the past, it's not just our generation, people have been fighting for
Yeah,
sure,
they have.
but in the sense that this generation right now is not going to take it easy. I feel like now they've realized that, look, it's a fight that we have to hold on to. We've
Right.
like achieved almost 80% to 85%. We have a bit
Absolutely.
more to go. I mean, we got rid of the prime Mahinda Rajapaksa in like 31 days of protest. And then in a month right after that, so May 9th, he left. June 9th, Basil left. So maybe July 9th, we'll see the president stepping down. I
That's
don't
the
know.
hope. Yeah.
I don't know, but that's what we think, right? That's what we're fighting for. So let's see with the youth. And it's not, so I keep saying youth because obviously I represent part of the youth at GGG, but it's not just the fight of the youth at the end of the day. It's the fight of like entire Sri Lanka, right? So I feel
Absolutely.
like it's not just it's unfair to say that it's the youth's fight. It's everyone's fight. So I feel like everyone needs to play a role at the end of the day, coming out, stepping out, doing their part. I mean, any place that you stay in can be a place that you show your dissent, right? It doesn't have to be at Gotagogam. I mean, we understand people have so many problems with the fuel crisis,
Yeah.
with
Mhm.
traveling around. So I feel like people need to be sensitive with that. Maybe carpool, come together. If you're cycling, cycle to GGG. But if that's not possible, use your petrol lines at places to
Yeah.
show your dissent,
Mhm.
right? Have a black flag, have a Sri Lankan flag, have a little banner on your um, car, step out of your house is just like hold a board. It's still support, right? It's still you standing by the youth that's at GGG. Many of the youth there probably haven't had a warm meal in a very long time. We depend on people for our daily, like the breakfast, the lunch, the dinner packs that come in. I mean, super grateful for everyone who has been
Right.
fueling it,
Mhm.
but it's just that they're making so much of sacrifice, right? Supposedly this is supposed to be like the best years of our lives, for us to be
I know,
like
right?
out, just like
Yeah.
enjoying, exploring, uh I don't know, just like planning our future in general. But we're spending it here at golf face in tents, sleeping on wooden pallets, because we feel for our country, and this is all we've got, right? We've got our country.
What do you think, sets apart this generation from the past few generations? What's that key factor?
I feel like the thing that, like, I've seen with my involvement in Gota Gogam, and one of the main things that we've achieved as a generation is that unity. Because a lot of people have come forward from the older, more senior generations, and they speak to us when they come to Gota Gogam. I'm not saying
Right.
that the support isn't there, it is there, most definitely. But when they come and they tell us, they say, look, this is something that's amazing that you guys were able to achieve this unity. It was something that we've been living for years and not been able to achieve. And your persistent and your sort of never giving up spirit brought that together, right? If we gave way to uh, our differences of religion, race, ethnicities. I mean, Sri Lanka is a multicultural, multi-religious country, and
Yeah.
it that very factor of our differences has been used against us as a weapon, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I feel like we finally have come around that and realized that it's a weapon used against us, and the only thing that will strengthen us if we realize that and work together. Because I mean, all those differences are just differences that are very outside, right? At the end of the day, we are Sri Lankans, and we all go through the same things, live through the same things, and we deserve the same thing.
Absolutely.
So that's something I think that sort of showed that our generation was capable of achieving with a lot of persistence.
Perfect, perfect. Well, that is Anjalee Wanduragala making her stance very clear on the current economic crisis. This is the mic drop, a revolution of a generation. Welcome to the show for anyone hopping on board. Well, this show is all about giving the youth activists, the youth content creators, the influencers a chance to voice out their opinions and their perspectives and elaborate their good fight, the peaceful fight against the current economic crisis. So as always, do follow us on our social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and also we do have a YouTube page, which you probably are watching this on. So do hit that subscribe button and the notification bell if you feel like doing so, if you want to stay notified on very special programs just like this one. And Anjali, might I tell you, the time is actually going really fast. And I'm like, we haven't even gotten deep into the conversation yet. But I wanted to touch on a little bit about international media coverage, right? Something I personally saw myself was, it has been very scandalous to some extent because we feel like, they're not properly telling the entire story or the true narrative. Do you think maybe the government, I mean, we are not surprised to, there are, I guess, weird, things that they do. So do you think they probably might have bribed these international media organizations to paint a different picture?
I mean, looking at the past and like seeing what our government or these regimes have been capable of, I mean, it is a possibility, but
Yeah.
I'm not one to say whether it's legit or and it's happening right now. But there are possibilities. It could happen. It could not be happening. But like, there's always a possibility, and I don't think we can tick it off saying that, oh no, it's not happening. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. But yes, I agree with you about how um, international media at the end of the day played a I mean, it does play an important role in how information of our country gets out, because of the fact that within the country there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of government propaganda with like state media and things like that.
Yeah.
It
Mm-mm.
was super important for us to get it out internationally, right? And I feel like as international journalism went, it was disappointing, because we saw a lot of very famous journalists and very famous news networks portraying this as, a very violent
Violent.
sort
Yeah.
of situation,
Mm-mm.
which most definitely wasn't, right? For anyone who was here on the ground who saw it, I mean, the only violence that took place was the state inflicted
The state
violence, right?
sponsored violence.
Exactly. So other than that, I feel like it has been the most peaceful protest that, I know, maybe even saying it's the most peaceful protest that has happened internationally would be right, because it's been 65 days of peaceful protests with just that jerk of a government sort of, sponsored violence in there.
Yeah.
So I feel like there was a lot of misinterpretation of what happened, and also they had used a lot of old footage on like representing how now, how the protest
Yeah.
right now was,
Mm-mm.
which is very irresponsible, because you would obviously expect more from international agencies, right? And even on the 9th, when the attacks happened, we were helpless, right? When the very people that were supposed to be protecting us, I'm talking about the forces,
Yeah.
when they were just standing there doing nothing, the only people that we could have turned to was media.
Aren't they supposed to protect the people, right?
Exactly. Yes, that's a totally different sort of conversation we can have about
Yeah,
that.
another
But
day.
like what I was saying was that the only thing that we could look at was media, the local media and foreign media, to get the word out that, look, our rights are being violated to this extent, and there's nothing we can do as citizens in the country other than just go out there and like physically be present and defend ourselves. So in that instance is like, that's where it got disappointing, because that day and everything, like, it wasn't portrayed in the right way. I
Right.
feel like really, like, international media really needs to sort of help us, instead of trying to, just get their ratings up at the end of the day with
I mean,
stories.
either they just either want a story or they were bribed. I don't think
Maybe,
there's anything else to it.
maybe either way, we saw it happen. So
Yeah, we
it
did.
was
Mm-mm.
disappointing, and we really do wish that, they take better sort of initiatives to give out the right story, to portray the right story by reaching out to like the correct people on the field and getting a proper view on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's spot on. And also, Anjali, why have the youth kind of never been considered as stakeholders in political discussions, even when the winning of any election depend on them? Because that's the majority, right? Because the older generations, as bitter as that truth is, they die, and it's the youth that comes up, right? And majority of the votes, I believe, even for Gotabaya Rajapaksa, came from the youth. But then still, the youth are not considered as a major stakeholders in these discussions. Why do you think that is the case, especially in Sri Lanka?
I feel like that's a question we most definitely have to direct towards our government, right? Why aren't we important? Why aren't we being informed? Why aren't
Yeah.
we, why aren't our voices being heard, right? Honestly, I don't have an answer to that. Like, why? Why aren't our voices being heard when it's so loud, clear, and cut short into like, these are our demands, these are what we want? It's out there, it's present, and yet there's a deaf ear towards us.
Definitely there
So
is.
I feel
Mm-mm.
like it's something that has been there and is present right now as well. Um, but I don't really know why. Because like you said, the youth is super important, right? And right now, take the parliament for example, right? The Sri
Right.
Lankan parliament,
Mm-mm.
how majority of our MPs don't even have their basic education, right?
Mm-mm.
uh, Only about 14, I think, to 50, 10 to 15, I'm not sure of the exact amount, again, 10 to 15 MPs in parliament have declared their assets. It's just a few of them that actually have the genuine sort of interest in portraying themselves genuinely to the public,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
But then you look at the youth, right? You look how educated they are, you look how aware they are of what's happening, right? They are very, especially I feel like today, with Gota Go Gamma and everything going on, political awareness exists because people come together, there's an open conversation happening, people are, informed about things that are happening. So the youth most definitely does play a big role. So it's concerning that they aren't given that importance that we want.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably a question we have to ask them, why, seeing the youth being capable of creating change, capable of uniting a country, capable of getting rid of corrupt leaders or out of power, more or less dissolving the cabinet, and
Yeah.
going to an
Mm-mm.
extent of getting the corrupt CBSL chairman out as well, and even governor, sorry, the CBSL governor out as well, and even to the extent where presidential pardons on murder victims have been turned because of the youth's initiative through all of this. I feel like the youth most definitely is an important part,
They
which
definitely are.
the
Mm-mm.
govern. I feel like maybe it's the fear of the youth that they have at the
That's
end of the
probably
day.
the case. That would make
Probably the
sense.
fear, because then they've finally realized the power that people possess when they're together. So I guess it's a threat to them because they've spent all their time divide and conquer, literally. So
Yeah.
that sort of mindset. So I feel like now it's a sort of threat when they see the youth coming together for the first time ever. We have like local public and private university students coming together for like one cause, which is in the history of Sri Lanka,
It
it
hasn't
hasn't
been
been
seen.
seen.
Yes, yes, that's very true. Well, once again, this is the mic drop, a revolution of a generation. Anjali Wanduragala, thank you so much for hopping on board, being a part of Relax Radio. With that said, we are moving on to a quick break. We will be right back. Welcome back to the show. You are listening to the Mic Drop or watching the Mic Drop Revolution of a Generation with me, Evan Ace, and this is Anjali Wanduragala. She's no stranger to anyone anymore. She has been fighting the good fight, the peaceful fight for the past couple of months, bringing out her energy and her power, I guess, helping everyone else around her as well, especially, I guess, now I would say helping the entire country, Anjali. So I guess on behalf of everyone, thank you so much for everything that you are doing and you have been doing. So What do you think, of the show so far? How has it been for you?
Thank you for having me. I feel like what you guys do is like we spoke before about like
Yeah.
media. It's super important that we get the right true sort of information out,
Yeah.
because in a world where it's so easy to have so much of false information, like the WhatsApp messages that go around, the other
Yeah.
sort of like
Mm-mm.
Facebook posts, it's very important that we have a reliable sort of valid information and like verified information going around, because it's very easy for people to be distracted by certain things, being at home behind a phone or behind like a laptop, seeing these things, right? And that's why it's so important that you come forward and like you sort of try your best to, in your capacity, give out whatever you have, your
Absolutely.
ability, right?
That's
So
very
yeah,
true.
thank you so much for having me here.
It's our pleasure, Anjali. I mean, I love how authentic your answers are. I guess they are as authentic as they can get. So, on that note, I wanted to ask you one of the most important questions, which, by the way, the Rajpaksas have been dodging, because I did watch an interview of an not yes, kind of watch. I mean, he was on the phone with one of the journalists from NDTV, and she asks, do you have like a direct connection with the economic crisis? And he kind of has been, going around in circles like, COVID, yada, 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 and the economy has been bad for a really long time and whatnot. So, in your opinion, do you think, yes, I mean, let's go really deep into your heart, right? What do you think? Were there any external factors affecting the crisis, or do we just entirely blame the government or the Rajpaksas for that matter?
Okay, so I feel like I can answer this bit detailed because I'm an economic student in
Oh, yeah, there you go.
I'm an economic student.
Yeah.
So, but I'm just finishing up my first year. But from what I've learned, I mean, it's basic economics or basic like reading that any economy, I mean, there isn't a straight line, right? It's not a growth that goes straight up. It has its peaks and it has its downfalls as well, right? So you have the good sort of increase of economy, and then you have the fall of an economy
Yeah.
too, right? And it's the actual growth of an economy is like that. There's like a curve to it. It's not a straight line.
Yeah.
So any country, whether it's Sri Lanka or the US or China, whatever, there is that thing, because it's very theoretical when you say that, oh, there is like continuous economic growth. Like
Mm-mm-mm.
if there is continuous economic growth, there is going to be a fall at some
Yeah.
point. it's
Mm-mm.
it's it's, it's all related at the end of the day. That's how anything works, not just the economy. So I feel like if it was a normal country economically, we will have downfalls, but we're not talking about that sort of downfall, are we? Like we're talking about Sri Lanka literally hitting rock bottom, to a point where we have children dying without
Yeah.
medicine, we have people dying in queues, fuel queues. We have people not having milk powder. A, a dal is costing like what, 500,
Mm,
six
yeah,
hundred
it's
rupees.
insane, right? The
So we are we
prices.
are facing massive. It's like hyperinflation. We're facing inflation like never before. It's like an all time high. And I see how like people, we know how Zimbabwe and other countries were, right? With the hyperinflation, people had to like take money in wheelbarrows to just buy like a loaf of bread. So I feel like Sri Lanka, that's where we are heading, right? Like it or not, we are bankrupt as a country. We don't have
Yeah.
reserves, we don't
Mm-mm.
have money to pay off our debts, and we are paying for it. We are
We are
paying
basically paying
for
for
our
it.
leaders not being able to pay these debts
Mm-mm.
through not having our essentials, right? So I feel like yes, this situation is most definitely the situation we are in now. The fact that we are suffering to this extent, where even if people have money in the future, we won't have products in supermarkets for us to buy,
Yeah, no
food
supplies, by the
for
way.
us to
Yeah.
consume,
Mm-mm.
is most definitely because of the government, because of its misspending, misallocation,
Robbery,
corruption, thieving, just printing more and more money. Any child knows that you can't just solve an economic crisis by
printing more
printing money.
money.
So I don't know. It's crazy to think of it right now, because you would think that these are some sort of, even if we all know that they don't have educational qualifications
Yeah,
in those
absolutely.
areas, but you would at least think that they would give room to like people who are educated in those areas to come and advise them. But no, that sort of I know what it is. Maybe it's that ego, or it's just that pride, or just like having that power in your hands is
Yeah.
making you that way. But that's how we're going, right? And that's how, so I feel like answering your question, yes, it's most definitely because of them that we're in this situation. Because a natural sort of a suffering in an economy and like economic issues won't affect us to this extent, where our like we don't literally
This
don't
is
have
a
medicine.
yeah.
If a dog, like if I get bitten by a dog that hasn't had the rabies injection, I would die of rabies because we don't have the injections right now in Sri Lanka.
So
Can you
that's how bad it is. Yeah.
think about that for a moment? Like if a snake bites someone in like a rural village, or even in Colombo for that fact, we don't have the anti venom for it.
Yeah, yeah, that's very
And
true.
it's such a sad situation because even if you have the money for it, there's no way to get it.
Yep, that
So
makes
I feel
total
like
sense.
the
Mm-mm.
fact that we're in such a deep problem is most definitely because of their doings
Yeah,
and
so
nothing
you're
else.
just 100% sure she's like, yeah, it's the Rajapaksas. Let's just kick them
Yeah,
out of the
because
country.
I mean,
Yeah,
if not, yeah, as a country, I mean, with anyone in power, we would go through it. We would have like issues when it
ups and
comes to,
downs are
yeah,
common. Yeah.
and we would have faced it better as a country if we did use these resources, the money sent in the credit lines, the even with the crisis when I think it was India that sent in the credit line for food supplies,
Mm-mm.
but it was used for steel and industries.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember
Again,
Basil Rajapaksa did that.
during
Mm-mm.
economic crisis, again, misprioritizing, misallocating. So it's very frustrating to see it. And I think that's why we step out every day. That's why we protest. That's why we fight so much for this change, because we're just fed up of seeing it happen, right?
Yeah,
So for us to win this, we need everyone to step out and realize this, that unless all of us come together, that we can't get them to stop. Because I feel like the more numbers come in, the more louder we get, the harder it is for them to give us a deaf ear.
that's very true. I don't think this is just an economic crisis anymore. It's a people's crisis,
It is.
right?
It's most definitely a political, economic, and just a crisis as a country in general, right? A lot of things are changing. A lot of, I mean, we haven't even come to the worst parts yet. I feel like in the next few weeks, when food, when we have the food shortages, that's what's going to happen next.
That is
I
what
don't know
everyone has to be
what
prepared for.
exactly,
Yeah,
because right now maybe like it's affecting certain people more than other people. Maybe the upper income people or the middle class people are feeling it less, but you guys also are going to feel it at some point. It's
everyone.
going to get
Mm-mm.
bad. So I feel like before it can get so bad to an extent where we all are going to be like in a rut, we need to step out. We need to use our like privilege. If you are, that you're this upper middle income or whatever part, and you are able to take a drive, or take a cab, or pay for a cab, and like come into Colombo and protest, do it for the people who can't, do it for the people who are in petrol lines
Yeah.
suffering. So I feel like that's where your like privilege or whatever counts, where you come forward and sort of fight for these
Yeah,
things.
so everyone can make some contribution, right, for this peaceful fight that we
Exactly.
are fighting. So, Anjali, on that note, let's talk a bit about the dark day, the 9th of May. So,
Uh,
tell me what sort of, I want to, ask this question in a very sentimental way. I would say, what sort of emotions ran through your mind when it hit the news? Where were you? What was happening in
yeah.
your life at the time?
So I know for some some weird miracle, maybe it's my parents' prayers or something. Both instances, even the instance with the arrest near theatre, near the
Yeah.
parliament with the
Mm-mm.
13,
Yep.
I just missed that arrest. I was like a minute away. I witnessed the arrest, but I wasn't like, I was moving towards them and they were put in the bus.
Oh,
So
wow.
I missed that by a minute as well. Even the ninth attack, um, I stayed over the night, like the day before, till very
Mm-mm.
late. So I went home and I was sleeping. So in the morning when I woke up, I had, so I was supposed to go back there in the morning, but I fell asleep because obviously I needed to get that rest. And when I woke up, this thing had already started happening. Right, Temple Trees was, brought in. People were brought in buses, and they were just like. So I was at home when I got the calls from my friends that were at the protest site. Right, like the rest of us
Yeah.
there. So just hearing that there were people coming in and just attacking them and seeing the lives happening, I don't know. It may sound crazy, but my first instinct was just, I just like got dressed in like, I don't know, less than 5 minutes, just put whatever on and got a took and just like moved towards that area. I know it sounds very impulsive and like, oh, you're going towards the trouble, but what else could you do?
Yeah.
Because like I said, the feeling that we had, that the very people that were supposed to be with us, supposed to be protecting us, the forces, them not being with us, just what else did we have
And
to
they
do?
did it just for probably a rice packet.
We had no idea what they were paid or what they were given, but like
It's really
it's very
sad.
sad because it's a very what do we do at the end? We were helpless, and that feeling of having your friends there just like being beaten up to an extent where certain people were in the ICU for days. The people on the stage near the secretariat who were like, so what we noticed mostly were these people, the obviously the people that were sent by the government to instigate the violence there, came to kill. They didn't come to hurt. They came to kill because they um like you see on the media, like
Yeah.
the faces, we know the faces, we know the names, we know the people have done the investigation for the CID that should have been doing it,
Doing
gave
this.
out everything, and still where are the arrests? Where are the nothing, right? But the
That makes it
moment
so obvious it was state sponsored.
the
Yeah.
moment something happens from like that threatens them,
Mm-mm.
they call in like innocent people who are involved with Aragalaya, just arrest them with nothing, no court orders, nothing, just no reasons. Even the arrests that are happening are not lawful arrests because like it doesn't happen according to a proper procedure of arrest. So I feel like the emotions that ran that day were emotions are very high, obviously, because people saw how peaceful these protests were, and I feel like they just dug their own grave by attacking the peaceful protest because people just saw exactly what the situation was.
Was and I kind of want what ran through the minds of those pro-government people, like just for, let's say, I don't know, maybe a bottle of beer or an alcohol or a rice packet. Like, did they actually think that them barging in for those couple of hours or minutes, trying to destroy a peaceful village that is protesting for something, for the greater good, for everyone, right? It's not just for individual needs or wants. It's just actually crazy to think that they
Yeah.
barged in just for a couple of minutes to, and then once again get embarrassed, right? They were put in the lake and everything.
Yeah, see, so even with that, I feel like didn't yeah, like you said, didn't they have any sort of person beside them to be like, look, you guys are doing
That's
something
literally so.
super stupid, don't
Yes.
do it, it's going to backfire on you.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I guess they're all just on the same level of like
Mindset. Yeah.
mindset, or they're just that incompetent that they don't think before they say something or do something. Clear, I mean, it's clear, right, from the speeches they make to
Made.
like
Yeah.
the
Mm-mm.
statements to the very I think the Minister of Education and Universities recently said that the universities in Sri Lanka, oh, there's no problem, we're open. And that's when Antare and like the inter-university students went up to Isrupaya in
Yeah.
and protested a few, like I think 2 days back, and asked like, give us, where is this minister? Why has he made this statement when you local universities have been closed for the previous like year or so? Why we have a minister who doesn't know, or is just saying it to maybe arouse the crowd?
Yeah.
So there's so much of incompetent. I don't know what to call it. At the end of the day, it's very disturbing.
They
Maybe
should
they're
have just
doing
stayed
it.
away, right?
Yeah, it's, I don't know, it's crazy.
Well, coming on to that, and they basically made it violent, right? It was a peaceful protest that the government and violent. Even though Mahinda Rajapaksa said something, I'm gonna read his exact words. He said, "The struggle that claimed the life of innocent parliamentarian Amarakirti Atakorala is no longer an innocent or peaceful struggle." So, Anjali, I'm gonna tell you to not tell me or to the audience, directly tell to Mahinda Rajapaksa your answer to that statement.
Yeah, I feel like it's a joke first. Just like saying that sentence in itself is a joke because it's very ironic, because him being a part of a family that has claimed so many innocent lives at the end of the day, right? So many innocent like you said, the journalists,
Yeah.
the just citizens who got involved in fighting for justice, lost their lives. We don't even know what happened to them. There's no cases. The cases have gone like just covered up. he they I wouldn't say they have so much of blood on their hands, right? With the ninth violence that happened, even there, no one was killed, but
They could have been
they
killed.
could have been killed, right?
Yeah.
Could have been killed, and the blood is on their hands, right? The bloodshed that happened there, the injuries, the amount of things that happened there, right? Not just that, every single life that was lost in these queues for fuel, kerosene oil, it's all on their hands, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And also the children that are dying, the children or elder or whatever human beings dying without medicine, which we don't even have a clue of, the statistics, how much of blood is that, how much of blood has been on their hands for like decades.
Yeah.
And it's quite ironic that we're hearing him, coming out and like pointing fingers at the peaceful protest and telling them that, oh look, the blood is on your hands,
When
and like
they started it.
when it was them that
Yeah,
has been, sorry.
no worries.
So it has been like this sort of very staged thing to get people to, believe that. One thing that the Rajapakshas and other political leaders are quite cunning about is how they say things, the sort of tone, the sort of way they get people to gather around them, right?
Mm-mm.
And I think, but now one thing that we've realized is people of like all areas, all social classes, all middle income, upper, I don't know, whatever, people have come together and realized sort of crazy things that they've said, and that they've realized even the 6.9 lakhs that voted for them, I feel like at least now
Yep.
realize that uh, they are criminals, they are crooks, they are deceiving people. I mean, I don't know what for what reason they did vote for them. Maybe it was deception by them itself, but I mean, if we knew that they were criminals, if we saw that they were thieves, if we saw that they spewed around corruption, why were the other people, looking at all of that and still thinking that, oh, they would make good leaders?
Right.
So I still, at least now, people are realizing, and I mean, it's something we're moving forward. I mean, there's no point in blaming, and like, I mean, there's nothing we can do. We can't turn back time
So
and
you
go back.
never were pro government, were you?
I obviously knew what happened. I mean, we saw facts, we saw figures. It wasn't just us sort of thinking and like speculating things. These were facts and figures that had gone like internationally. We knew how much of dollars.
Everyone had access to that information, right?
Exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, journalists who were killed had put out that information, killed for that very information, and yet people looked at all of that and didn't make the right
I mean, he was
decision.
the war hero, right? That's basically even the excuse that he
They used
uses.
various
Mm-mm.
things, I guess, like when it came to the Easter Sunday bombings, which we still don't have justice for, right? What's happening there?
Talking about that,
Nothing.
do you think the Rajpaksas probably have direct
I mean,
involvement?
we don't know. That's exactly the problem over here. So we are demanding for justice as like people, as citizens of Sri Lanka. I mean, we don't have to be Catholics who are in the churches or involved there, right? As people in Sri Lanka, so many people died being in places of worship, places that are supposed to be sanctuaries, places that people go to during wars to have safety. But that those places were used as like places of terror
Yeah.
during these regimes, and people capitalized on those moments to come into power, right? They came into power saying that, look, we're going to bring justice, we're going to hold them accountable. I mean, you see that power play between Ranil and all of them, right?
Mm-mm.
Ranil came in to punish them, then they come in to punish Ranil for the bond scam, and so many. It's like a circle of, I'm going to punish them, but it never happens,
Never
right?
happened.
So
Yeah.
we as people really need to realize this now, that the past, it's just repeating itself with like Ranil coming to power again, and I don't know why people are still like even thinking that he's capable of like change when clearly they're showing us from the past. I mean, we can't predict the future, right? We can't say that this is going to happen in the future, but the only way we can think or speculate of something like close enough to what might happen is by judging the past and current actions. And if those are very clearly showing us that they are not on our side, they're not for the people's benefit, then I don't understand why people are still thinking that he's like the
Capable of
savior
doing
or whatever.
something. Yeah.
You know how Sri Lankans have that, it's something that I've noticed, they have that very we have this savior complex, the thing that we need a leader to save us, we need
Yeah.
this like
Mm-mm.
one. That's why a lot of people, with the protest, the Aragale at Kota
Yeah.
Bogama, a lot of people ask us, so who's the leader in this protest, who's
Oh,
leading the
yeah.
protest? Like there's no
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
group leading it, like aren't you going astray without a leadership? No, I
That's the
feel like
problem.
Sri Lankans
Mm.
have been set in that mindset of, oh, we need a leader, we need someone guiding us. Like we all have leadership. We all can contribute. We all
Yep,
can, come forward.
absolutely.
One reason why Gotago Gama developed so fast compared to any other Gama in Sri Lanka is because we didn't have that sort of authoritative one, like just sort of leader coming in and saying no and like oppressing people, right? People came in, people contributed in whatever way they could. I mean, that's not, we can't run a country right like that. But what I mean is that it gave space for people to come forward, and we need to understand that this Aragale need doesn't need like this few people leading it, because we do see everyone coming forward with that core goal. So we understand that there are different ploys to get, they arouse us, as a group to like come forward with leaders. It's easier for them to track us down and sort of break down this thing.
Yeah.
So we're not going to fall for those ploys. We've seen it happen before. We're not going to let it happen again. So I feel like that's something that's on the youth, something smart that the youth has, come up with not, putting forward any like leaders, because we're all concerned citizens of Sri Lanka coming together for a core goal, which is to get Gota out and get the
Right.
Rajapakshas out and get the system, change the system.
A bit opposing on what you said. Well, not my opinion, because there was, talks of a new youth party being formed, which kind of died down the past couple of weeks.
Okay.
So, what are your thoughts on that? And I'm just gonna, put it out there and bluntly ask you: would you ever, be involved in politics to some extent?
So I feel like, okay, another thing, the Sri Lankan mentality again involved in politics. They think that this is only the the to the extent of us being in parliament.
Right.
I don't believe in that. I think you and I are also involved in politics, right? To some
Hmm.
extent.
Yeah.
Our dealings, everything is involved with politics at the end of the day. So I feel like, yes, of course, as the youth, we have to be willing to come forward and take whatever. So if I am studying economics and I think I'm going to be educated in that way, of course, my main goal is to serve the country in some way, in an economic sense, because I have knowledge in that sense,
Yeah.
right? So it doesn't have to be in parliament. It can be as advisory, it can be as, civil societies, it can be just coming and stepping forward and taking leadership in whatever instance you see injustice, right?
Yeah.
So yes, of course, I feel like the youth really needs to come forward. The youth group really needs to be set together, where people can come together with their education, their qualifications. Then the right people will be at the right place, as understood, and which is one of our demands, the fact that we want educated people in the right places, right? Because I feel like as the youth, and since we've seen that, there's so much of change that's been brought about by the youth, I feel like, yeah, of course, the youth needs to come out, because one thing I've seen is that, this corrupt sort of system within the government, within the rule,
Yeah.
is one thing that can't be changed overnight. And even if someone with genuine intentions gets in there right now in this sort of environment, it's very hard to create the genuine change. So we need to start from scratch with a fresh group of people to create that change. And that's where the sort of youth groups step in,
Yeah.
the new ideas, the new sort of educated team steps in. So I feel like, yeah, of course, I feel like anyone should be willing to come forward right now with your education, qualifications, and all of that to make change. So yes, of course, we all have to be involved in
I
politics.
absolutely love what you said. So to make that change, politics does not have to play a part necessarily. Like, it could be in any perspective. Well, with that said, of course, reminding everyone that this is the mic drop, a revolution of a generation. And for today's episode, we have the one and only incredible Anjalee Wanduragala. Anjalee, once again, thank you so much for being a part of the show. For everyone watching or listening, reminding you to follow us on our social media platforms: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. And also, if you're watching on YouTube, do hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on special programs just like this one. And also, you can download the Relax Radio app that is available completely for free for both iOS and Android devices. So you know what you got to do. Head on to your Apple App Stores, your Google Play Stores, hit that download button and keep us running in the background so we can guarantee you great company as always. And with that said, of course, Anjali, moving on to my next question. Being, one of the activists who is heavily involved in Gota Gogama, let's talk a bit about Gota Gogama, the vibe there, what's happening there, and your contribution to it.
Yeah. So basically, Gota Gogama was formed with one intention to get the Rajapakshas out, and
Right.
we still stick by those core principles and like sort of values that it's non-violent, peaceful. It's based on love and just peaceful means of protest, right? And we're still based on that, and that's the most special aspect of it. Gota Gogama is still going on for 65 days, I think, for today. And the main goal is that, right? So Gota Gogama functions in a way where everything from the medicine that's brought into the Red Cross tent to the food packs to the tents to the wooden pallets or any contributions are by our very own citizens who care and want to contribute. We as people in, so I work very close with the People's Power Tent at
Right.
Gotagogama, and we mainly what we do is we help with the redistribution of the donations that come in. So as a tent, we don't take in any monetary or any money transactions as such. We don't take anything, mainly because of transparency issues, obviously. Because then, if you do take in money, then you'll have to have like audits. You'll have to keep track. So we don't want it to get complicated. And so far, we run fine with people sending in donations in kinds, in items, right? So everything from the lunch packet, like I said before, is brought in by donors. So in that sense, you see how generous Sri Lankans are. And mind you, these aren't Sri Lankans in Sri Lanka. These are Sri Lankans not only in Sri Lanka but also
Abroad as
abroad
well.
as well, in Canada, in USA, in Australia, in Thailand, in different parts of the world. People reach out to us and they're just like, hi, how can we help? We know you guys don't take money, but how can we help you guys? They get through to food suppliers and send us food, and get through to their friends over here and send in the donations we need. So it's just very wholesome to see that as well, how people come together disregarding our differences and like just contribute. So I'll have to like definitely thank all our donors for like coming forward and making sure we're fed, making sure we have enough tents, making sure that we are sustained throughout these protests. I think they in fact understand that it's not just our fight, it's everyone's fight. So just like these donors understand, we need people around who haven't been involved as much to come out to like show their support, because it's not, like I said, it's not my fight, it's not Gota Gogama's fight, it's everyone's
Everyone's
fight.
fight.
So
Yep.
everyone needs to get involved, and it is unfair to like put it in the sense that, oh, Gota Gogama needs to do it. No, it's everyone, right? Gota Gogama. That's the other thing. Everyone thinks that Gota Gogama is at Golface. It's not. Gota Gogama, this Aragala is you and I, these like ideals that we embody, right? If we are someone who fights for justice, who believes in peace, then yeah, of course we are the Aragala in itself. So I feel like that's something that people usually forget, and it's something that we need to sort of remind people. So I feel like it's something that I just wanted to mention to everyone that look, we do get donations, we do get people coming in, but we could use more support. We know that there are some more people who are wanting to come support. There's a lot of speculations about things happening in there, that things may look different when you just like hear it over the news or like see a post or read something that someone else says about it. That's exactly why I say, come, step out, speak to us, come into Gota Gama, spend 10 minutes, talk to someone there, and like see how it's run, see that there isn't this sort of run by one person situation going in there. It's a group of people. I mean, the different people coming in there may have different political ideologies or whatever, but when we come in there, we keep all of it aside for that one goal, which is
Yep.
to send the Rajapakshas home. I mean, we've sent half of the Rajapakshas home, so it's Goda to go home now,
Yep.
which is the main goal which we're looking at, and to get this corruption out of the system. Our differences later on through elections and stuff, we will elect whoever we want, but right now we need to keep all of that aside and come together just to like get these goals done, get them to get the parliamentarians to get their act together. Like I said, we've come so far and like we can't drop it anymore. Like we need to persist and be consistent with what we're doing. So I feel like
Absolutely.
that's the whole vibe at Gota Gogama right now. I mean, there's a lot of things you can learn if you come to Gota Gogama. We have tents being put up, almost like different tents from different groups in society. We have an LGBTQ plus tent, a safe space that was put up, I think, like 2 days back,
Wow.
which is also a space for conversation. So there is so much going on in there that you can learn from. There's a people's university where we have like sessions on the constitutions, constitutional reforms, what we can learn. Then we have a citizens forum where you can come talk about the injustice that has happened to you, or whatever you've been through. Then we have a library, you can come read. We had a blood drive and an organ drive on the 9th to commemorate 1 month of the attack. So they spilled our blood, but we will give our blood to save a life. So
I
There's a
just
lot of
got
things.
goosebumps with what you said
No,
there.
exactly.
Yeah,
So that's how creative the youth is. It's not just one or two people, it's like groups of youth just there. So I invite everyone to come and see how it works without falling for, this. There's much more than meets the eye when you come there.
absolutely. Mm-mm.
That's all I can say about, Gota Gogama as a protest,
And
as a
on
peaceful
and
protest.
Anjali, you can go ahead and tell the audience and everyone watching or listening in how they can make these donations.
All right. So you can reach out to anyone at the People Power tent at Gota Gogama. So basically, what we do is we don't take in, like I said, we don't take in any cash donations. What you can do is what our main needs right now is we do need like food packs being arranged, which is breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And if anyone's willing and able to send around any packs of food or water, which is much needed, you can just make sure that the delivery gets to the People Power tent at Gota Gogama. We have a kitchen also at Gota Gogama, so any dry rations or whatever you can send in can be sent there. So there's a lot of unity there in the sense of how we manage the place and make sure that it's run also not corruptly like our
Yeah.
politicians run our country. So if you come there, you'll actually see how a Gama is sort of run in unity and harmony. So if you do want to make donations, you can come forward and just direct it towards the People Power tent. I am involved there personally, so you can like reach out to me or anyone. So
Well, yeah, that's
yeah.
perfect. And also for anyone watching or listening in, you can also make those donations through Relax Radio. Feel free to drop us a message on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. We are there on all those platforms. And if you want to just hit us up, +44 785 247 3473. Once again, that's +44 785 247 3473. Feel free to add in, make this, I guess, more amazing, right? Through your contributions and donations, because it is what we need at this very point. So, Anjali, unfortunately, we have, almost come towards the end of the show. And like I said, time just, I don't think it flew by, it just printed by with your authentic and amazing answers and your amazing personality. Of course, thank you so much for bringing in what was needed for this program, because you stand basically what this show is all about, the mic drop, a revolution of a generation, which is what you are involved in. So, before we conclude the program, give us your final thoughts, the message that you want to send to the people and also to the people who are making this corruption happen.
Yeah, I feel like as the people who are making this corruption happen already know what we have to say to them. I mean, it's there everywhere. If they just, I know, decide to stop giving a deaf ear to everything and actually decide to listen, they will see it. So I don't think I have to repeat what they have to know. But to everyone else, everyone, like just other citizens of Sri Lanka, what's most important right now is you stepping out. No matter where you are, we need you to step out. It doesn't, like I said, doesn't have to be Gota Gogama. You can start your own town-based protest. Now we're having a series of town-based protests as well. Kohuala had their town-based protest again yesterday after some time, and it was great. People came out with pots and pans and just created noise. It was basically people who shouted about, like, their struggle in their kitchens without gas, without all of these things. So I think Kovala is having another protest today in the evening at 6 o'clock. So if you can join there as well. And there are a series in Nugegoda, in Rajgiriya, in Timbrigasya. Like I said, we will be putting the message out. We will be spreading the news about it. So just step out whenever possible. Take a black flag with you. Just show that you are in dissent to all these things, all the injustice happening, to all these people who are unlawfully being appointed into parliament. You need to show them that you are above all of that, you do know, and that they are not standing with the people's demands. So to show that, we need everyone involved. So
And
please.
it shows from Anjali's voice. I mean, she has been, I guess, screaming at the protest.
Yeah, I know. Excuse my voice, but
But
it's
that shows, the
basically,
power of the people.
yes, the power of people, because where people unite, there is immense power. And since we are in a place where people have finally realized that power, it's very important that we keep up that momentum. So we would really love to see you uh, out of your houses and not letting yourselves get comfortable to this sort of new normal that they're trying to correct, because it isn't something we should be okay with. It's not how we should be living. We as Sri Lankans deserve way better. So please step out and do whatever you can to help the cause, to sustain the cause, and to win this, because we most definitely can, and we are very close to getting rid of them and having a better Sri Lanka. So if you do love Sri Lanka, come, step out, and get involved.
Well, there you go. You heard her. She's ending the program on an optimistic note in a pessimistic time, I would say. Well, Anjali, once again, thank you so much for being a part, not just the mic drop, but also of Relax Radio. I hope this is not the last that we will see of you. We will be bringing you back in for more programs because you are what is needed for the change. So, with that said, of course, we are concluding the program. Thank you for everyone that joined in and for hopped on board. Have a fantastic Sunday ahead.